Hello my lovely Floss Tube friends, back for a very quick demo on how to use the new 2024 stitching trackers that I have now posted up on my blog. If you have not been aware of this in the past, I've always done a Excel spreadsheet tracker that I use, and I've always posted it up on the blog, so if anyone else wanted to use it, that it's free. You literally just download it and you can run with it. This year, slightly different, because I had so many people that were saying that they track by stitches, not by days. I've gone ahead and made one that will do counting of stitches, and there is also the one for those folks that like to count by the days. So I thought I would do a very quick video for those that either don't know how to use it, have never used it, or just need a quick brief over of how to use it. It's pretty self-explanatory, in all fairness. If you go over to my blog, it is www.teresalittlestitchout.com. You'll find the downloads there. So literally go onto the website, and then the first post you'll see, if you go down the page, will be introducing the 2024 cross-stitch tracker spreadsheets. If you have no idea what these are, of course there's a bit of blurb on there. It tells you what ones you can download. I've got one for the days of the year stitching tracker, which will track the number of days you stitch on a project or projects. And then there is another one this year, which I have done only since basically for this year, number of stitches of the year. So if you count your stitches and you track by number of stitches, there's one for you as well. It also gives you information on how to download, how to enter the details, and then how it reviews your project. So once you get down to this bit here, you'll see there are two download buttons. You've got the 2024 project tracker counting days. That's the one that I've always used historically. And then there is also, for those of you that track your stitches rather than days, how many stitches you do on your projects, this is the one that I've done that's new for this year. It's the 2024 project tracker to count stitches. So whichever way you like to track, or you would like to try and track, download them. They're completely free. They'll download onto your device and you can roll with it from there. So let me quickly whiz you over to the trackers so that you can see. So this one is the standard one, the one that I would normally use. It is the tracking by number of days stitching on projects. You'll see at the bottom of the screen, you've got a January to December. So these are your tabs each month that you will use to enter what you've done. You can see there's a key across the top here. For me, I've got S for stitches, F for finishes, FFOs, self-explanatory, fully finishes. New starts is an N. Now I've got live streams and Floss Tube just because I like to track that. But if you don't want to, if you're not a Floss Tuber and you don't do lives and you don't do Floss Tube, if you're a knitter or a crocheter, you could put, under L you could put crochet, and under FT you could put knitting as example. And as long as you key it so that you know, I would try and explain to you how to change the conditioning so that it would be, K for knitting and L for crochet, but that gets a bit complicated, so let's keep it simple. So you can change these two here, and then you'll know that if you type in an L, it'll be for your crochet, and if you type in FT, it will be for your knitting, say, as example, or any other craft that you do. It's just there's two extras there for you. So basically how this works, so if we go into January, you'll see that over on the project side there's a little drop down. When you click on each one of these, you'll see the little drop down which will pick up from a list. You'll see there at the moment they're just numbered. So how do we enter our details in so that we can track our projects? It's very simple. Once you've got your January to December, so they're the months where you're keying in what you've done in the month. You've also got a year view, which will give you a year view, and then you've got your WIPs. Now, The WIPs is where you're going to enter all of your WIP information or the project information. Also, as a little bonus, I have also put in a WIPGO board. So for those of you that either would like to try WIPGO or do WIPGO and would like to have your WIPGO board with your tracker, I always have my WIPGO board with my tracker because they sort of work in conjunction with each other. So I've put a WIPGO board in. If you've never done WIPGO before, but you've heard about it, or even if you're interested in finding out a little bit more out about it, if you head over to Jessie Marie Does Stuff, she is the creator of WIPGO. I'll put a link to her YouTube channel down in the description box below, and I'll put her channel name here on the screen. So if you are interested, she has various videos where she explains what WIPGO is and how you do WIPGO. There is also a Facebook group where there's a community of people where they share their WIPGO boards, they share their ideas, they share their plans. It's just something that's a little fun that you can do alongside your standard stitching. Like I say, I'm not the creator of it. I just use a WIPGO board because I do WIPGO. So I thought, well, since as I have one on my tracker, I would put an extra one in for anyone that's interested. If you don't want to do WIPGO, you just don't use that tab. It's as simple as that. As of January 2024, Jessie Marie Does Stuff will call 2 numbers a month between 1 and 25. So you'll see that the board is numbered 1 to 25. I personally track by days of doing things. So because I track by the day, most of the goals that I want to meet are days. So on the WIPGO board, you'll see that most of it just says example. This is where you're going to put in the information about what task it is you want to do. Now, there is nothing to say that it has to be completely stitchy related. If you are a multi-crafter, you can do an array. So you could do cross stitching, crochet, knitting, card making, whatever it is that you want to do, planning, journaling, anything like that. I personally, like I say, work on days. These are all changeable. So you can change what the goal is and you can change what the project is. Some people use it so that they will actually put the project name in. Some people, like me, will have goals that are categorized. So rather than just making it so that I have to stitch on that particular project, I like to make it so that I can stitch a sampler or a full coverage or a general or a small or a winter or a fancy lady, fancy man. It is, no hard and fast rules. You can stitch what you like. You can put whatever goals you like in here. So as example, I've done one here where I've said, okay, this block is samplers, this block is full coverage. And then I can change up here, so I can say 2 days and I can say 4 days. And then what will happen? So December, I think Christmas Day is the date that it's being called. So tomorrow, Jessie will call the 2 January days. She always calls them a little bit ahead of the month so that you've got a little bit of time to pull your projects out or to get yourself ready. Some people have new starts on there, so to make sure that they're ready, it gives them time to get all of their bits and pieces together so they're ready ahead of the month. So Jessie will call 2 numbers. So as example, if, say, for instance, she called number 1 on Christmas Day and also number 8 as example. So if I put in here smalls. So if she calls number 1 and number 8, you can see this one looks different. All that is because when you first get the board, it's just going to say month called and all of this is going to say N. You can see over here there's a status bar that says N for goal not met and G for goal met. So basically when the numbers are called, I will go into the number that is called and then where it says month called, I will say January. And as soon as I do that, it will change the color. So I know that that one needs stitching, but the goal isn't met. Once I've met the goal and I've stitched my 4 days on my small, I will go into the N and I will change it to a G, and then it will highlight both G and the month. That way I can easily see what months I've reached my goals, what months I've still got to finish the goals. The idea is at the end of the year, every single one of these squares should look like this, and you have completed your WIPGO. So if you're interested in WIPGO, like I say, Jessie Marie does stuff, the Facebook group, everything on there will give you a bit of guidance on how it works. All you have to do ahead of New Year is to go in here and fill it out. So like I say, it's there for anyone that wants it. If you don't want to do WIPGO, just don't use this tab. So the spreadsheet. Your first place to start is on the WIPs tab. You'll see over here it says works in progress. On the left hand side at the moment it just says WIP 1, and that goes all the way to 100. This is where you're going to key in the information for your projects. So as example, so where that says WIP 1, I will type over the top of that and say, I don't know, evening in the park for my chatelaine. And then I'll put in a start date. I'll take the finish date out. Fabric used is 25 count Ugana. Colorway Abyss by who was it? Fabrics by Stephanie. Thread used, various, and then any other information that you want to put in, you can put in there. So basically, this is what I will do. I will go through all of my WIPs and I will put all of this information in. So slowly but surely, you will end up with a whole list of projects in there. Once I've put all my WIPs in to this box, my next job will be go to the year view and I will systematically select them in order so that all of my WIPs are showing. Obviously at the moment it just sort of says one WIP and then WIP 2, WIP 3. Once you put your information in this WIPs tab, all of the drop down boxes here, you can go through and select all of your WIPs. Once that bit's done, you're ready to rock and roll, people. So in January, I'll go to my January tab. I'll use my little drop down. So depending on what project I stitch on in January, I won't go through and put every project on there. I will only put in the month tab the projects that I've worked on in that month. So if I pull out my evening in the park, you'll see WIP 1 has now turned into evening in the park. Once you filled your list out, you won't see WIP 2 to 12, you'll see your project names. You select your project name, and then as example, let's just say I stitched, and I will put in an S for stitched because that's what the key says up here. So look at the key, and I will do, and then say I didn't stitch any there. And you'll see here, it automatically calculates the number of days. And if you're the sort of person that stitches on more than one project a day, as example, obviously I didn't put another WIP in, but if we just use WIP 2 as an option, I could say, well, I stitched on that as well a couple of times that day, but then I only stitched on that day. And you'll see there, it will tally you done 13 days of stitching in January and evening in the park, and you done 7 days of stitching on your WIP 2. Down at the bottom, you can see here, January, you stitched on 2 projects on the 1st, 2 projects on the 2nd, 2 projects on the 3rd. It's self-explanatory. So once you key in this information, and it doesn't matter at any point in the year when you do this, if you then go to your year view, over here on the year view, what that will then do is it will pick up all the information that you have put into the months. So as you can see on mine, she says January, evening in the park, it says I stitched 13 days. WIP 2, I stitched 8 days. So If I now go into February and say evening in the park, I stitched 6 days, and my whip 2 like so. So I've done 10 days on whip 2 in February, and I've done 6 days on evening in the park. If I now go back to my year view, you will see that it breaks down exactly what I have stitched on. So it gives me, I can see at a glance how I've done in the January, in the February, which projects I've leaned more towards. And then over here, you will see there is a total stitches in the year. As the year goes on, projects that are getting lots of love will have much higher numbers and higher bars, and projects that have been very, very neglected will be much lower. And then over on this side, there is a project finish date. So how does that bit work? When you have completed a project, or you've completed what it is that you wanted to complete, I will go into my whips. Say for instance, I finished evening in the park yesterday. Yesterday is the 23rd of December, so I'll just put in 23/12/2023. If you need to change these fields to US based, if you click and drag across the date, so if you select start, finish and FFO'd because they're dated, you can scroll down to the bottom here to highlight them, release the mouse, right click, format cells. There's a date option there. If you are US based, you can scroll through, or if you're any other nationality, you can go in there and it will select. So where's the US? There we go. So there is an England, United States. So if I select on United States and click on OK, it will put the date as you would write it. Obviously, I'm UK based, so we do it the other way round. So ours it would be 23/12/2023. Yours goes the other way round. So just make sure that for your own ease, you go in and you change the location. Mine is UK. And you can either have it in this format. I personally like to have it in the written format, so I'm going to click on that one and it will put my dates in. So all you need to do is change how the dates appear for your location. Now, by putting a finish date in, so if I put a start date in here for whip 2 as say, I don't know, the 12th of August 2020, and then I go to my year view, you will see on here that it is highlighted. So anything that is completed and you put a finish date in, it will block it out for you. So it makes it very easy to see as the year goes on how many finishes you've got, what ones you don't need to worry about, and they're completed, and it'll also show your completed date. That is basically it in a nutshell. So you just literally month by month key in, and if you're curious to know how you're doing, I tend to find this really, really helpful once I get past sort of the 6 month mark, because I start to see a trend of what I'm stitching, what I'm not stitching, what months I stitch more in, what months I don't stitch very much in. I'll go to here. I can look by the month across the top. I can look at the trend bars. So depending on what's trending, it will show you all this information for all of your whips. So that is basically the crux of stitching if you're counting via days. If, however, you are a counter of stitches, I made one for you too. Basically, it is exactly the same. It is exactly the same as what I showed you previously. You've got a WIPGO board. The same principles apply. You put all of your projects in, or the whatever it is you're trying to complete. You can change your goals, and then all you're going to do is, as and when the number is called, change that. It will show you that in January you need to stitch this one and whatever other one, and then when you meet your goal you just change the N to a G and job done. Very, very easy for you to see what you've stitched on, what you've completed. Again, same thing applies here. You're going to go to your WIPs tab. If I put in there tap dancer, and then I don't know, the second one could be my high heels collection. Two. And then in there, if I put in, I don't know, 1st of the 2nd 2023, it doesn't matter what format you start to put it in, whatever you set the format to is what it will show as. And then if I put in here castles in the air, and we say that we started that on 20th of the 4th 2020, but that one's not finished. So you'll see here tap dancer is, in fact, let's change that. Let's copy that out of there and put that in there, and then clear that one because it makes it easier to see. So again, you'll go in, you put all your WIP details in, you'll go to the beginning of the month. As you can see, there's a little bit of detail in there because I've used it as an example for those that are new to the spreadsheet. So I will click on the drop down for my projects. You'll see that all my projects are starting to appear. So I'm going to say that in January I stitched on tap dancer, and I stitched on high heels collection, and I stitched on castles in the air. Okay, now if you are a stitch counter, this is what you're going to do. Instead of putting in the number of days, you'll see there's no key up here. There's no key for those that are counting the stitches. You could say, okay, on tap dancer, on the 1st I stitched 50 stitches. On the 3rd, I done 200 stitches. On the 5th, I did 1,500 stitches. And you'll see as you go along, it's going to show you over here the number of stitches. Now, if, again, you are someone that stitches on more than one project on the same day, I could say, well, okay, I stitched 250 stitches on high heels collection there, but I also did 50 stitches there, and then castles in the air I done 2,500 stitches there, 20 stitches there, 100 stitches there. So you get to understand what it's doing. So if you want to know how many stitches you stitched in a day, you're going to go down to the bottom here, and it's going to show you how many stitches you stitched in a day. If you want to know how many stitches you stitched on a project for the month, it's going to tally over on the right hand side total number of stitches for all the days of the month. So it makes it super easy. Now when you go to your year view, this looks a bit weird because it's obviously not selected our projects yet. So if I click over here on projects and I put in tap dancer, you'll see that it all starts to change, and it's changing shape now. Now, because we put finish dates in on 2 of the projects, so where we went into our WIPs and we said, okay, well, we stitched on these projects, they were started then, these 2 we finished those on the 1st of December and the 12th of December. How the spreadsheet works is it will pick up all the information. You'll see your trend bars, so you can see castles in the air you stitched more on throughout the course of the year. It shows you what months you stitched on it most, so again there's trend bars there, and then over on the right you can see it's got a finish date. Because it has a finish date, it's highlighted it off, so therefore you can see very easily at a glance how many stitches you've stitched throughout the course of the year, how much you've stitched on each project, where you've stitched more throughout the months, and then anything that you have finished. Basically, that is the spreadsheets in a nutshell. Like I say, they're on the website. If you've never tracked before and you fancy tracking, or if you are someone that has got one of my trackers for the days, but actually you quite fancy tracking via stitches instead of days, like I say, there's 2 different spreadsheets there for you to use and to pick from. All you need to do is go through and key in the information. So the order you would do it: download your spreadsheet. If you're going to do WIPGO, set up your WIPGO board. So you would literally go in here and put sampler, full coverage. Now, for you guys that are stitching, doing stitch counts, you could say you want number of days. See, this is what I like about WIPGO. So although you may be counting stitches, but you want to focus on projects, you could go in here and do number of days, 5 days or 4 days on your sampler, or on, if you're selecting a project, you would put in tap dancer. If, like me, you're going by category, you could put 4 days in there. If you like to say, well, I want to make sure that I achieve 2,000 stitches, you would just go in there and put 2,000 stitches. It doesn't matter. All this is changeable. You're just going to make the changes to the goal and to whatever it is, the category, the project, whatever it is you want in now. And then your WIPGO board is set up. Once you've done your WIPGO board, you're going to go into your WIPs. You're going to go in, you're going to put all your information in. I like to have for reference, the amount of times that I stitch on something that I love the fabric, and then for the life of me, I can't remember what fabric it was. By putting it into my spreadsheet every year, I know when I finish it. So therefore, I can quickly scoot back to my trackers and I can see what fabric it was stitched on. So that way, I've got the information to hand. So you would fill out all of this. Then I would go to my year view. So before the year starts, I would go in here and I would go through my list. All of these ones that say WIP 4 to 12, they obviously will change as you've put more information into the WIPs. I would then go systematically through this and select each one in their order, like that. So that all of the projects are showing. If there's a project like this one, WIP 4, we haven't stitched anything, we haven't put any information in. When you first load this up ahead of the year, this is what it will look like. It will all look white across here with zeros. Just the project name will be over on the left hand side. Then as of the first of the year, as you slowly start to work on your projects, so let's just say in February, scroll that up, tap dancer, in February I stitched 4,000 stitches because, yeah, as if I did, but it would be nice, wouldn't it? 250 stitches there, but then say if we go all the way over here and just go, oh, I didn't stitch again on this until then, 450 stitches there. And again, you can see in February, that's 4,700 stitches. You can see down here how many stitches you've done per day. You could find that it's showing down to WIP 1. All you do is when you go over to this side, you'll see there's like a slider. Slide up and down. That will get you to the WIP in question. So we stitched on High Heels Collection and I done 250 stitches there, 460 there, 10 there. Okay, and again, it's going to show you how many stitches in the month you've stitched on that. And again, it's going to tally up how many stitches you've done in a day. If we now go to the year view, you can see here, there's numbers in January and February. And you can see very easily, the one that I've stitched on the most is Tap Dancer. because it's got 6,450 stitches. The one that I've stitched on the least is this one. And then through the course of the year, more and more information will show. Basically, that is the crux of it. If you are planning to use the trackers and you get into trouble or you get stuck, please feel free to reach out to me. You can message me on my email address and I'll pick that up as best I can. I must admit, I get a lot of emails. I do get a lot of emails, so there could be a slight delay, but reach out to me if you have a problem with your spreadsheets. It's not quite doing what it should do, you know, because although I've created them and I've tried to go through and check every single line to make sure it's working perfectly, if for any reason you have an issue or something doesn't appear to be working, then like I say, please reach out to me. I'm sure I can have a little look and see what's gone wrong. The only thing that I would say, so I know that people in the past, when they've said, Teresa, my spreadsheet's not working properly and it's not doing this and it's not doing that. The way that the system works is it's calculating from rows. So this information it picks up from other areas. So if, say, for instance, you want to add more information to your spreadsheet, please do not insert any rows or anything into B, C, D, E, or F. Everything from G right the way through to K, you can add columns. L, you could add a column if you wanted to add more information there. Just don't change anything in between these because they're allocated. They're allocated to do the formulas to make it do what we want it to do. So, yeah, just a note to everyone, because that has happened. I've had quite a few people that have said, Teresa, my spreadsheet's not working. And then when they've showed me, they've done insert. So they've basically selected a column and they've done insert and they've inserted a column into column D, which then makes it so that the formula doesn't pick up. So, like I say, you can make changes in this WIPs area for more information or additional information or project designer, as example. You can do that, but please make sure that you do that anywhere from G, H, I, J, K, L. You can have as many as you like. Just don't interfere with column B, C, D, or E. In fact, or F. As long as you don't do anything in front of this, it will be all good. But I hope this helps you. And for those of you that are planning your WIPGO, I need to get my WIPGO board loaded because the first two numbers I think are being called by Jessie tomorrow. I know it's Christmas Day, but she does do it on Christmas Day. Although she calls the numbers are for the 1st of January. So you've got plenty of time between Christmas and New Year to get your spreadsheets up and running and loaded. Like I say, this one here, the one that's sort of like all blue toned, this is the stitch counting one. So this is going to count your stitches. If you're not a stitch count person and you're a days of stitching person, you are going to go with the one that's sort of a greeny colour. So if you download it, if you get confused when you're downloading and you download both of them, just know the bluey colour one is for stitch count and the green one is for stitch days. Hope that helps everyone. And finally, have a wonderful, wonderful festive season all. I hope you get a wonderful break to get to do all the things, spend time with family and friends. Have a lovely time and I will see you in 2024. Bye-bye for now.